What's up, guys? Welcome back to the UFC Arena UFC Fight Night, Overeem versus Volkov. We're going to go through a few of the fights and do a little preview and breakdown. So first off, we have Beneil Dariush versus Diego Ferreira, and I am so excited for this fight only because I love Beneil Dariush. I mean, yes, the man does look like your geography teacher. He does look like, your mom's friend, or he's supposed to be doing some engineering or something. He doesn't look like a fighter, but this man could fight. Like, I feel sorry for anybody who sees this man and underestimates him because of how he looks. Because he's vicious on the feet, he's vicious on the ground. His record is 19-4 with 13 finishes. Right, a lot of submissions, a lot of KOs. This man will play, and I like it. Even in the times where he lost fights, like his fight versus Edson Barbosa, he was actually winning that fight until boom, Edson hit him with that vicious knee, and that was the end of it. But this man is a problem, and he still flies under the radar, and it's kind of strange to me that more people don't talk about Beneil Dariush, because this man is a legit contender. Anyone who has to fight this man, it is never an easy night. Now, Diego Ferreira, he's a legit contender as well. He submitted Anthony Pettis in his last fight. Now, that's a big deal, right? Because Anthony Pettis doesn't get submitted very often, so that's a big deal. But Beneil Dariush is my boy. I'm backing Beneil Dariush all the way. His last few fights actually were quite crazy and entertaining. He's a very entertaining fighter, and I just love the way this man fights. He comes to fight every single time. He's good on the ground, he's good on the feet. I just think that he's going to be too much for Diego Ferreira. And well, a little fun fact, they actually fought before and Beneil Dariush won that time. So I'm hoping he does the same thing this time in more devastating fashion. So I'm going to go with Beneil Dariush all the way by knockout. I'm going to say second or third round knockout. Okay, stepping into the arena next, we have Michael Johnson versus Clay Guida. Michael the Menace Johnson, he is one of the absolute best fighters in the UFC when he is on. The problem is, he isn't on nearly enough. Like, when you see this man and he's like sharp, he's one of the fastest fighters I've ever seen in the UFC. To this day, he still has some of the fastest hands, and he's so vicious when you see he landing his strikes with power and accuracy. That speed that he has really kills. That X factor with his speed is always something that could allow him to win the fight at any moment. However, way too many times he hasn't been able to get the finish and he just crumbles. There have been many times where I would see Michael Johnson's fighting and I'd come in with my expectations high because I saw how fast and how vicious this man could be, and then he'd just let me down. He's the definition of a 500 fighter in the UFC. I believe his UFC record is around 11-11 or 11-12 at the moment. So he wins, he loses, he wins, he loses, he wins, he loses, and I just see so much potential in him, but he just never seems to reach that next level, and it's disappointing because he could be so good. He has some of the fastest, most vicious hands, and I'll keep saying it. Going into this fight though, he's fighting Clay Guida, and that's a winnable fight, because Clay Guida, he's not a spring chicken. He's not young, he's up there in age, but he's still a tough guy. It's hard to finish Guida, and he has a wrestling heavy offense, which isn't the best for Michael Johnson, but Michael Johnson can wrestle. It's hard to hold him down, but you may be able to like hold him against the cage and grind him out and keep taking him down, like those kind of things. But you wouldn't necessarily be able to hold him down and just dominate him on the ground unless your name is Habib. Habib can do that to anyone in the world. But anyway, so for this fight, once again, I'm going with my boy Michael Johnson because I like to see him fight, and I really hope that he's on and his striking is sharp and he has good takedown defense, because if you ask me, Michael Johnson at his best is way better than Clay Guida at his best. So I'm gonna go with Michael Johnson, and because I respect the toughness and the heart of Guida, I'm gonna go by a decision as well. Okay, for the next fight we have Corey the Sandman Sanhagen versus Frankie the Answer Edgar. This is a good fight. This whole card, this entire main card is filled with good fights. And if you know anything about UFC fight nights, you know that these cards tend to be some of the best cards. So, Corey Sanhagen versus Frankie Edgar. What I think is going to happen here, this is a tough one. This is a close one. And I'm so happy to see Edgar finally down at 135. A lot of people think this is where he should have been for quite some time. It's kind of crazy to think that he was the champion at 155 at lightweight, and then he moved down to 145, and now he's at 135. So yeah, that's kind of ridiculous. He's been fighting bigger guys his whole life, and this is still no different, because even though he's at 135, Sanhagen is still bigger than him. Sanhagen is really tall for this division, and it'll be interesting to see how Frankie manages that. Sanhagen is 5'11", and Edgar is 5'6", so there's a 5-inch height difference, which is significant, and there's also a slight difference in reach. Sanhagen's reach is 2 inches longer, but like I said, this is nothing new to Frankie, right? He's been dealing with this his entire career, and this shouldn't be any different. However, Corey Sanhagen is a very legitimate prospect. He was right on the cusp of a title shot before he lost to Aljo, and now Aljo is getting the title shot, which is a good fight that is coming up that I'm also excited about. But anyway, Sanhagen has some good striking. He has excellent movement. He has excellent variation in his strikes. He wouldn't just throw one thing, you know. He doesn't just stick to boxing, or he wouldn't just stick to Muay Thai. He mixes it up. He switches stances while he's going forward and while he's evading, and he just has a lovely style all around. He has a decent ground game, but that also seems to be where he has a bit of a weakness. We saw that Aljo was able to submit him in the first round, and there's also one of Sanhagen's past fights with Yuri Alcantara, where he was in a lot of trouble. Once again, as soon as the fight started, he was almost submitted. He was in an armbar. His elbow was bending all kind of directions. It shouldn't be bending, but he was able to fight through it. So hats off to him. This guy, Sanhagen, he's definitely tough. He's gritty. He has everything that it takes to be a champion. So with that being said, Frankie Edgar is a problem for anybody, unless I guess your name is Jose Aldo, because Aldo beat Edgar a million times, but whatever. Frankie Edgar, especially at 135, well, he's a cardio machine. He's always been a cardio machine. He can go 5 rounds with ease. He has one of the UFC records, I think, for the most time spent in the octagon. So you know that Frankie isn't gonna get tired. And Frankie, although he has 8 losses, he has quite a few impressive wins as well. Like, he has a win over Yair Rodriguez. He took him down and he ground and pounded him out. He has a win over Jeremy Stevens, who was much bigger than him, and he was still able to handle him. Frankie has some good wrestling, which he will need to rely on, I think, if he wants to beat Sanhagen. But I think that Sanhagen is going to be too much for him, especially on the feet. The variation that Sanhagen has, I don't think that Frankie will be able to deal with it. And I'm not sure that Frankie will be able to submit Sanhagen, which is his weakness. So I think that while Frankie may be able to land takedowns here and there, he may not be able to finish Sanhagen, and Sanhagen will be able to get back to his feet. But this is a close fight. Like a lot of the fights on this card, this is a close fight. So I will not at all be surprised if Frankie was able to take him down and to finish him with some ground and pound, because Frankie is a problem when he's ready. So close fight. I'll go with Sanhagen, and I'll give him a 55% chance to win and 45 for Frankie. Ooh, okay. Let's get to the main event. Alistair Overeem versus Alexander Volkov. I'm excited for this fight. I really don't know who's gonna win. This is a good fight, good matchup. Alistair Overeem and Volkov are both technical strikers. Alistair Overeem is a little bit more of a veteran, right? He has more fights, but I mean Volkov also has 40 fights, so experience is not going to be a big factor for the both of them. Overeem these days is not the Ubereem that we used to know. He doesn't rely on just his brute strength and force and just being a monster and a bully in the cage. He doesn't rely on that. This Overeem is intelligent, he's savvy. This is what I call high IQ Overeem, and it's actually been working for him. But Overeem's chin is always in question. He fought Walt Harris, he took some big shots in that one. He was almost finished, but he survived. So his chin held up that time, but I've seen Overeem too many times get knocked out. And I know that Volkov more than has the ability to knock him out. But with that being said, I still think I'm gonna go with Overeem in this fight, just because he's really using his head and he's really thinking, and I think he would be able to find a way to win this fight. I think that he might even rely on his ground game. Overeem has an underrated ground game because he doesn't really use it very much and he doesn't go to his wrestling that much, but I think he might be able to rely on his ground game to get an advantage over Volkov. Now Volkov is tall, he's long and lanky, he's 6'7", and he uses his reach well. That's something that would be hard for Overeem to deal with. This fight is we could really go either way. It's like Overeem has a iffy chin, but he also has a good ground game, a decent ground game. Volkov has a long reach that he uses well, and he's capable of knocking out people, but he might not be as strong as Overeem on the ground. So weighing those two things, I think I'm still going to go with Alistair Overeem, and I'm going to say that he will win a decision. I just think that Overeem will be able to use his intelligence and use his high IQ to stay out of danger, and even if he gets in danger, I'm hoping that he would be able to recover. And the unfortunate thing is I really like Volkov and I love to see him fight, so I don't really want to see him lose. But Overeem is kind of now or never for him. He's made it to the mountain right there to get a title shot many times, but he's always fell down, and this I think is his last run, so hopefully he can make it through. Overeem by decision. Thank you for tuning into my channel. I hope you enjoyed my content. Please remember to like, please remember to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you know every time I drop a new video. I appreciate you for coming by. Thanks. See you all in the next one.